Hey everyone, today's video is not sponsored by Nvidia, but I wanted to make a small video on why the RTX beta of Minecraft Bedrock Edition is sort of misleading in a way which the RTX on and off comparisons are made, and I just want to go into detail on what I think about it since I haven't made a video on it yet. And unfortunately, I cannot provide any gameplay of my own because I do not own a RTX graphics card. I have a GTX 1070, and while it technically supports DirectX R, it does not support RTX for Minecraft because you need at least an RTX 2060 or higher. And yes, while I do agree that Minecraft RTX looks absolutely stunning in every way, and Nvidia outdid themselves, there's a little problem in the way they market their RTX, and well, I will explain to you why. So first of all, what is RTX? RTX is the term that the graphics card manufacturer Nvidia uses for their RTX graphics card lineup, and what they're using it for is for ray tracing. Now, if you don't know what ray tracing is, basically, ray tracing means that you are simulating millions of rays of light that accurately bounce off surfaces and pick up properties such as metallicness or the color, and that means that the lighting will be much more realistic to convenient lighting and shading methods that have been previously present in all sorts of games. And well, ray tracing is something fairly new to gaming, but there is an issue because the features that Nvidia advertises for Minecraft with RTX are not entirely dependent on that actual ray tracing. There's a lot of ways to make lighting more realistic than the basic one we have in Minecraft that have been present in PC games or any games for years already, and they do not require the special hardware that Nvidia has. So for example, what you're seeing on screen right now is a Nvidia representative explaining how physically based rendering or PBR works with their RTX technology, but PBR is not something that actually requires a ray tracing implementation. If you invested quite a bit of money for an RTX card, it will of course have the hardware acceleration. So what I'm saying with PBR is that physically based rendering is not requiring any sort of hardware acceleration, neither does ray tracing technically. Nvidia has optimized the latest lineup of graphics cards to specifically handle this sort of task, and well, while other cards could technically also handle it, like I said before, some GTX cards already support DirectX R, which is basically ray tracing or the famous RTX, and well, it works from the GTX 1060, 6GB and up, that means the GTX 1070, and all of the 10 series and the GTX 16 series, and well, all of that does indeed technically support DirectX R, but because there is not special hardware that is made to handle this sort of load, which is of course simulating these rays of light, it is rather suboptimal, and I suppose that's why Nvidia chose that the GTX graphics card, while they technically do support RTX or rather DirectX R, that's why they chose that those cards cannot use RTX for Minecraft, because judging from the speed at which the game runs with RTX on a RTX 2060, which is the lowest you can go with RTX graphics cards and still be able to play Minecraft with RTX, well, it is already quite laggy, and that is already using an upscaling mode, which is basically reducing the resolution but then filling in the empty spots with AI, and well, that is what they call DLSS 2.0. And that's something that already increases performance dramatically, and without that the performance already drops down to 30 frames per second approximately with the RTX 2060, which is quite concerning because, well, you know, the hardware is specifically made for that, like I mentioned before, and well, that is something to consider. So I'm not that mad that it is not supported on graphics cards that technically do support DirectX R. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, just pointing that out, that is one of the many things that are included in the Minecraft RTX on and off toggle that gets turned on when you turn on RTX, but yeah, it does not really require the RTX. So what I meant by that is that the RTX cards are technically not required to run a form of ray tracing or path tracing. In fact, we have that on the Java edition of Minecraft. We have the Sonic Ether's Unbelievable Shaders, PTGI, which is Path Traced Global Illumination, and well, that's something that has been in the works for a while. And path tracing is also ray tracing. It's basically just a subcategory of ray tracing. And well, I have some gameplay of it right here. This is my GTX 1070 running it, and well, it is quite laggy because of course, while the GTX 1070 is not by any means a weak card, it is getting old compared to the newer RTX cards. So what you see on screen is my PC running the SEUS PTGI shader in the HermitCraft 6 World download. And I'm also using a PBR resource pack, so that basically gives the game the information, or rather the shader, how to reflect light off of these blocks that you just saw, which are the iron blocks, the gold blocks, etc. And well, it gives every pixel a specific property, for example how reflective it is, and that is pixel specific. I think it goes even more precise than that, but yeah, as you can see, it does look pretty nice. And it all works on a GTX 1070. As you can see, this is indeed my GTX 1070. I have the specs right here in the F3 menu, and this is the Java edition. So of course, Minecraft RTX, the official implementation, is on Bedrock edition with the new Render Dragon engine, and this right here is on Java edition. And the SEUS PTGI shader, this is pretty important for you to know. It does not take any advantage of the RT cores that are present in RTX graphics cards. So it will not take any advantage of the hardware acceleration. And that of course is because it's just not an official thing. The SEUS PTGI shader is something fan-made, but yeah, the results are pretty much stunning. It gets very close to the RTX implementation that is on the Bedrock edition. And of course this is only Java edition, but this is still beautiful in many ways. So as you can see, although it runs at a lower frame rate than a hardware accelerated shader would do with a RTX card, which is of course specifically designed to do this sort of task, it does run laggy, but you know, it still looks pretty good, and it definitely shows that it is doable without the RTX cards. And this right here, along with the blocks that you saw before, which are the ore blocks, for example the gold block and the iron block, which are very reflective, is also an excellent example of the PBR, which is the physically based rendering. As you can see, the blocks that you just saw, that is the andesite and the dirt, and now you're seeing the concrete powder, etc. They do look very rough, and it reacts to the light that is being shown on it. I think that's the right word, and it does look pretty neat, but I'm getting off my point here, so I'm going back on topic. So, my initial point was that Nvidia always puts these RTX off and RTX on comparisons. And the problem here is that Nvidia shows the default Minecraft game and then the game with all shading enhancements and the RTX. And what should be shown here is the game with shading enhancements for RTX off, and for RTX on, there should be the game with shading enhancements and all of the full ray tracing capabilities that are thanks to the RTX technology. A more accurate comparison of RTX off and RTX on can be found in various other games that recently have added RTX support. For example, right here I'm showing a clip of Metro Last Light. This is a game that now supports RTX, and right here I am showing how it looks like with RTX off and RTX on. This of course is an official Nvidia clip, so it will look nicer than in most situations probably, but yes, this is a more accurate representation of what a game looks like when the RTX enhancements are turned off versus when they are turned on, and as you can see, the difference isn't as drastic as with Minecraft. I will now be playing a small clip from a Minecraft RTX benchmark video from Nexus. Now, I do have to say that I have no affiliation with Nexus, although the names are coincidentally similar. But yeah, right here it is Steve, which is pretty much the person that is always on this YouTube channel, who is going to talk little about why this is an inaccurate representation. But yeah, I think he explains it better than I do, and yeah.
Minecraft is almost an accidentally perfect candidate for RTX, but it's not for the obvious reasons. Traditionally, Nvidia has pushed for the feature to be included in major AAA graphics titles like Battlefield 5, and that's become more of a balancing act between the high poly, highly complex games getting juggled with real-time ray tracing add-ons. The end result has typically been a trade-off of what graphics options in the game get turned off or sacrificed in order to turn on RTX and support the performance, or how low of a resolution you're willing to bring the game down to. Minecraft, meanwhile, has basically no native, unmodded graphics quality to speak of. The texture resolutions stock are abominable, and the game itself is entirely comprised of simple geometry. We're not saying that in a mean or a critical way. We've played a lot of Minecraft here. So that's the entire appeal of Minecraft. It sort of works here. Because ray tracing features aren't competing with traditional AAA graphics quality in this title, it's able to take almost all of the GPU horsepower to prioritize rendering ray-traced scenes. And glass and water exhibit reflections and refractions as are appropriate. So none of these are brand new to the world of computer graphics, but they're new to Minecraft. One quick note of fairness of analysis too. Some levels have resource packs which add emissivity from a block. So you have light coming off of a block, often the terracotta blocks, but they don't add it to the non-RTX variant. Remember that these light emissions could at least be added to the non-RTX block, so you at least have some emission of light like a torch would do. Some of the effects could also be faked. You could make up for a lot of the RTX features by working on the graphics with traditional techniques to fake the higher quality graphics. But RTX is a much easier way to execute without recrafting the entire game, and that's where we get the meme phrase, "it just works." If everyone wanted a fair demo, they'd at least add a light emission to both the RTX and non-RTX blocks, and they might even consider faking some of the other effects for non-RTX. We just wanted to make sure that you're aware that it's not always fair to simply show the RTX on and off and toggle them to compare, because some of the maps and resource packs for the RTX off version have had no additional work invested, including a lack of basic parameters like light.
So Steve Burke from Gamers Nexus puts out some very valid points. For instance, there is the fact that the terracotta blocks in that one map where there's the big Minecraft text and whatnot, the terracotta blocks emit light when the RTX is turned on, but however they do not when the RTX is turned off. That is in the default vanilla game. That's because in the default game, where the RTX is turned off, it is, well, just like Minecraft has always been. It is just normal terracotta blocks, but they are just retextured, so they don't have any emissivity or whatnot, and yeah. The thing with that emissivity is that it is not required with RTX, so, well, you don't actually need RTX for these to emit light or anything. And that is why this comparison, for example, is not very fair. And that is just one of the many things that are added in when RTX is on, but are never present when RTX is quote-unquote off. And yeah, so RTX on is not just RTX on, but it's also pretty much every other new shading technique, or I'm saying new, but new to Minecraft, old to basically anything else. So that is why, in my opinion, it is not a very fair statement to make that this is all thanks to RTX. But yes, that is just something that I wanted you to know. I think it is pretty interesting to know. Don't worry, I'm not salty that I didn't get sponsored by Nvidia like every other Minecraft YouTuber out there. I do these videos for fun and I don't do it for money. But the thing that you cannot deny is that the Minecraft RTX implementation is absolutely amazing. Minecraft is the perfect game for RTX because, like Steve previously mentioned, most of the processing power is put on the CPU for the base game. So when all the graphical effects are added in, like the previously mentioned emissivity, ray tracing, refractions from water and whatnot, it all goes to the GPU, so the GPU can have the full power going purely to those effects instead of having to also worry about the complex geometry that you see in other quote-unquote normal games that are not voxel games. And well, in Minecraft it's just cubes, it's rectangular textures for the most part, and it's also low resolution textures, unless you get some high resolution texture pack, but that is a whole other story. So for the base game, or pretty much for most applications, Minecraft RTX is pretty amazing. It looks really good, and I think it is a very nice addition to have. Plus, it is very nice to have some new stuff for the Bedrock edition of Minecraft. Up until now, well, that is, the addition of RTX to Minecraft Bedrock. Shading has been very limited, especially on the Windows 10 edition. The Pocket edition, which is Android and iOS, have had some nicer shaders because they used to run on GLSL, while PC Windows 10 Minecraft Bedrock ran on HLSL. Of course, that will all merge over to the Render Dragon engine, but yeah, so that seems like we are getting some improved graphics. And if you haven't heard it already, they have said last year when they announced Minecraft RTX that all versions, no matter if they have RTX or not, that means mobile too, will get graphical improvements. So that means shaders essentially, and they will all be for free. Of course, it will not look as good as the full RTX implementation because you don't have a million lights that are being calculated and whatnot. But yeah, it is still nice to know, and I think that's important that you guys know that. Okay, so with all of that explained, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I think it is a very interesting video to make because, well, you know, every single Minecraft YouTuber out there seems to have been sponsored by Nvidia and some other companies sometimes. I'm not saying that they are lying about how amazing they find it, but of course they may not be aware of these things, and neither may you be, so that is something that I wanted to clear up, and I hope that was some useful insight into the new Minecraft RTX. Thank you very much for watching. I have more interesting Minecraft Bedrock technical content on my channel if you are interested, so make sure to subscribe, and well, thank you very much for watching, and bye!